Startup Stars, where startups come to shine.
Founders and co-founders of startups to better understand them, what they're trying to accomplish with their startup, and their inspiration and its creation. We give them 10 minutes or less to do so. Today, we have David Mitlyng from Xairos. He's going to tell us about his startup. He's going to tell us about himself and his inspiration and the creation of a startup. Excited to have you here, David. Would you like to introduce yourself to the people?
Yeah, hi, Montarius. Thank you for this opportunity. Yes, my name is David Mitlyng. I am the co-founder of Xairos. We are building a global timing service to replace timing from GPS. Now, when you or other people think of GPS, you think of maps, you think of your location app on your phone when you're driving, using that guidance to get from point A to point B. But in reality, the majority of the economic benefit provided by GPS is as a clock. All communications, all networks, all financial transactions, your electronics, your computers, your cell phone rely on a very stable and accurate time reference to function. Without it, networks would fail, power grids would go down, you wouldn't be able to use the ATM or credit cards. Really, the modern world as we know it would collapse without that time reference from GPS within 48 hours. So my background is space. I've been working in the space industry for 25 years. I've built very complicated communication satellites for commercial and government agencies. But I really got excited forming this startup in 2019, working with my co-founder, who's developed a new technology using quantum communications, basically the quantum properties of particles of light known as photons, to develop a very secure and very accurate time transfer that will be orders of magnitude more secure and accurate than what you get from GPS. So this is what drives us. This is what inspires us as a team. It's a huge problem that we can solve, not just kind of creating that backup for that apocalyptic event if GPS went down, but enabling better timing that will allow things like 5G plus, 6G, self-driving vehicles, even some very exotic things that will be unlocked with a better time reference.
That sounds really cool. And I'm glad you're able to put it in layman terms for those who may not understand exactly what quantum communications is. Now, with photons communicating, I understand it isn't the same as quantum entanglement, where instantaneously, if two photons being on completely different sides of the spectrum, they're still able to communicate instantaneously, right?
You nailed it. Yeah, you know your quantum. So I find that quantum is kind of a buzzword and overhyped term nowadays, but fundamentally most technologies that are under the umbrella of quantum, including quantum computing, atomic clocks, quantum sensors, inertial reference units, they all in some way, shape, or form leverage that magical property of entanglement. And we're no different. So we start with a laser, and that laser's outputting jillions of these particles of light, these photons. And we dial the power back a bit, so it's a fairly weak light coming out. And we convert individual blue photons into pairs of entangled red photons. And one photon would be sent to you, one photon would be sent to me. We both have clocks. Those clocks are off relative to each other. And we would use our proprietary technology to get our clocks lined up, synced very, very accurately. And because we're using a quantum link, there's also a level of security that you get that's much, much better than an RF signal like you get from GPS.
Nice. So as far as use case, I feel like this type of technology, like even at this moment with things going on across the world, with the war happening in the past few weeks, it would be usable, very demonstrable in something like situations like these for future use case. correct?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. So, it's very terrible and tragic what's going on in Ukraine, but there's a lot of articles that highlight the importance of creating an alternative, something better to replace GPS. It was in the news back in November that Russia launched a missile to blow up a satellite. That made the news. It was big news. What didn't make the news as much was on Russia's state news agency. They threatened that if NATO intervened in that future conflict, they would blow up the GPS satellites. And since then, they've been jamming. They've been jamming at the Ukraine border, and most recently, there's been articles of that they've been jamming at the border of Finland. And you say, why Finland? Well, because the president of Finland met with the president of the United States, and this is just a way of extorting them. So they jammed GPS, grounded some flights out of Finland as a way of, leveraging their, extorting that constellation, which is very vulnerable.
Wow. So the technology that Xairos has, you're telling me it's unjammable?
It's very, very hard to jam, and more importantly, it's near impossible to spoof. So jamming just means you're interfering with RF signal, so you lose your signal. But spoofing is a bit more sophisticated. It means Russia and major countries like that can create their own fake GPS signal and make you think you're in a different location than you actually are. And this is there have been incidents where, say U.S. military drones thought they were in the wrong location, crossed over into the border in Iran, got shot down. This could be very disruptive if rolled out in that way. And our core entangled photon technology can't be spoofed. If I send you, one of those sets of entangled photons, there's a way we could both check that it comes from me. It's not coming from some bad actor over to the side.
Wow, that's amazing. So the child gamer in me would like to know, is something like this subject to like an EMP?
You could design it so it's, covered for that, but yeah, I guess you'd have to design for it. But it's to make it rad hard, survive in kind of extreme environments like that. Yeah, you can design for it, but it's makes it a little bit more expensive.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. I mean, the sound of it just sounds amazing to me. Just the sound of quantum itself just sounds so sci-fi and so sciencey. So,
yeah, it really is.
So just hearing it, I don't know. I guess like all these different space themed ideas come to mind, like everything from Star Wars to I can't even imagine. But that's just awesome to hear, and I'm very excited to hear about Xairos and what the future has in store for GPS technology, quantum communication technology, and how we use it. And I think Xairos is the perfect startup to do it. You seem like you know your stuff. You're excited about it. I really like your enthusiasm about what you're building. Is there anything you would like to leave with anyone before we close out?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to come on, and we're excited about it too. Once we get some satellites in orbit, they're entangled photons are flying everywhere. That's the starting point. Now we deliver time around the world, but we're also delivering entangled photons, which will be the foundation for also another buzzword to throw out there, the quantum internet. Networking quantum computers at mass scale. So it is exciting. We're very enthusiastic about what we're doing. Appreciate the chance to tell you and your audience about it.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much once again. And there you have it. We have David Mitlyng from Xairos. Until the next episode of Startup Stars, see you all soon.
Startup Stars, where startups come to shine.